this cosplay build, and I thought I would start with the harness slash belt. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it, but that is what it is for now. It will look really repetitive here. I'm just priming everything with heat and actual primer and using the tinfoil to make it mimic leather. And after priming, I went ahead and added the brown paint to those. This assembly bit, I am using contact cement, which requires a well-ventilated area, gloves, mask, even wear some eyewear because you never know where glue can just fly out of the bottle. That is my warning for this. Other than that, this is pretty simple. I'm just gluing down some pieces on top of each other, and eventually I will be punching holes and using some screw-in rivets. So I thought the screw-in ones would provide enough space to keep the foam moving against each other. From there, the process is pretty easy. It's just taking my reference images and making sure I am putting the pieces where the images describe them being. And yeah, it's just kind of like putting a puzzle at this point, just getting all the sizes of the foam that I need and putting them in the right spot and punching the holes and screwing the rivets together and eventually adding some hardware, gluing that in place along with putting rivets to give some extra stability, because again, this will be, I assume it'll be high traffic because it'll be on my arms, around my chest, so I just want to make sure if I bend or move or breathe for that matter, it just has that ability to move with me rather than restrict on itself or on me. Also wanted to add that while I'm placing things and moving them and adjusting them to my liking, I am also making sure I'm measuring to keep distance from things and just trying to keep it as even as possible, like as centered as possible, even though these straps aren't technically at the center. Chalk comes in a big handy when I'm trying to mark things because it's not permanent and it doesn't make an indent in the foam either, so I really recommend that if you're trying to mark foam without making it too permanent. After making both front connection points, I move on to the back of the belt. I apply a bit of contact cement and then use screw rivets and put them on. Again, making sure to measure. I took this on and off multiple times and where it would fit most comfortable on my body, give a guesstimate of where that might land, and then again, just using my ruler to clean things up and give myself a guideline of where I think these back closures will work best. After letting the glue dry and the rivets just settle, I go ahead and grab my strap pieces and I loop those through my rings here, as you can see, making sure to provide some overlap. And then it's just like the other pieces where I'm going to add a little bit of glue to help keep the structure, as well as looking at my reference images to make sure where I'm going to put rivets and where I'm not putting rivets to match as close as possible to the images. Here I am adding the next strap piece, again just having that overlap and securing it with some contact cement. I go ahead and use some of these quilting clips that I have and padding it with some spare pieces of foam I had laying around just to make sure that there aren't any indents left in the foam when I take them off. Also making sure that that glue seal is really firm and really tight, especially on this area that I assume will get probably the most point of traffic. And I'm just marking out the space where I believe I'll make punches to help, use it as a belt. And then in order to get the holes in, I go ahead and use that grommet punch again and just punch out some holes that I think are well placed and big enough to fit the buckle. And here are just some shots to give you an idea of what the harness looks like all together. There's definitely still some areas that I need to repaint, like the hole punched areas. Some of the sides of the belts I trimmed down to help fit through the buckles. And then I also just need to put on the large buckle in the middle, but again, I'm waiting for a lot of my hardware that I ordered to come in. It's all coming in at random times, and they were kind of hard to source because they are very specific sizes, so I'm just waiting for those and putting them together when I can. It's pretty repetitive here again because I'm just making sure to add some texture and coating it with primer and heat sealing it with my heat gun. And I kind of skipped a few parts just because I've done this so many times, you probably get the gist, but I still felt like including it. But after this part, I go ahead and paint it as well to match as a cohesive belt set. And yeah, not too much you haven't already seen. After all my painting and priming is finished, I go ahead and start marking up the belt ends because I want it to fit through the buckle as well as just having that general belt shape to it. I moved on to trimming down the side to fit through the whole buckle. Made it really easy to pop on these buckles and to glue them down, which in this step I added a little extra bit than I did with my other pieces just because I figured these two would have a lot of tension on them and I don't want the foam to rip, so I made these little slashes with my X-Acto knife in the foam on both sides where the foam will touch, so that way hopefully the glue can get in there and just make a really nice lock and tight seal to keep the buckle in place and on without hopefully too much pull and tug on them. This next part is very experimental but also very fun. That is figuring out what I want to do with my lightning effect. My first method of trying out this yarn technique that I saw like years ago when I was really into special effects makeup. I found it and thought it was a really neat technique but never ended up actually ever using it for anything. I just decided I'm gonna try it out. So you don't see me pulling the yarn apart here. You just kind of see the application that I first did on my hand. Go on to show how to accomplish the look, and it's pretty easy. You just take some yarn and you unbraid it and undo it to get the wispy effect. So I just apply some basic Elmer's glue and saturate the yarn, and I just use this toothpick to guide the yarn to create a lightning shape as best as I can according to my reference image. While I really liked this effect, even as it was wet or drying, when it did dry, it was still, when it's wet it's really shiny, and when it was dry it was still sort of shiny, so I think adding some loose powder on top of it would make it a more natural effect, like it was actually on the skin rather than just glued down to the skin. At the time I did not apply powder in any of these clips. perfect. My second method dawned on me one day when I was making a random item on my Cricut, and I thought, hey, why couldn't I print out a lightning design and just slap that on my arm and paint over it? And that's pretty much what I did here. I gathered my supplies, water-activated body paint, some water, some eyeshadow, as well as the stencils that I made. I actually really ended up liking the results from this. It was pretty simple to do. And yeah, you'll just see me kind of experimenting from here and see the results that I got. Here's kind of where I think I struck genius. I took the eyeshadow look and I filled it in with the body paint, and I just really love the way that it looks, and I really think this is a contender for how I will do the lightning on my arms. This could also even be applied to the arm socks that I made, and just using fabric paints rather than using makeup. She's totally not done, but she has sleeves. We have sleeves. We have cuffs on those sleeves. They're not sewn down yet, but they are put together, and this is so exciting to see. I've tried it on a couple times just for fit, but I'm just stuck on this mannequin. Disclaimer, this mannequin is not technically to my size exactly, so it might look a little baggy, but also, having put it on the mannequin, I am just realizing that I want to take this in a little bit, just for a better silhouette on myself, like when I wear it myself. And that's just because I think I gave a bit of a leeway when I was making it, because I wore it on top of like a shirt to make sure I had bulk. Like I prepared to have something underneath it, and I think I just gave a little bit too much you know, extra space in there, so I think I'll be tailoring it a little bit. I don't need to look like snatched or whatever, but I just want a little refinement of the shape. In terms of refinement of the shape, I also want to work on the collar here. I think I mentioned it in the last update. I'm kind of trying to remember all the updates I've made so far and what I've posted, what I haven't posted. And I believe I mentioned I want to line just this front panel. I don't want to like worry about lining the whole thing because I want to keep it as sheer as possible. But I think lining this front piece will help shape the front a little bit better. This was just to give an idea of like, oh my gosh, she's coming along, she looks so cool. Like, I've seen it on myself, but like seeing it here is just like, oh yeah, it's so awesome. It invigorates me, it gives me another extra pep in my step. And I just can't wait to keep making more updates. Which, speaking of updates, I'm not totally sure what those look like right now because I have been just making progress. Like, I will film or record a section of me doing something or tweaking something or editing something, and I'll just stockpile it, and then sometimes that ends up in an update, sometimes it ends up in a folder for the next update. So I'm not totally sure where I am right now. But if you notice infrequency in posting, or if like it's slowed down, it's because I'm stockpiling them, because some of the updates I've been making are like really small, or like you know, like I just put the sleeves on yesterday. That would have been like a 2-second, maybe even not even a 5-minute like update if I put that out as like a full video. So I've just been stockpiling little things, waiting for hardware for the belt to come in for shipping and things like that. And yeah, it's just getting down to like the little tiny details and trying to wrap things up. So I've just been stockpiling those clips. So if you've been fretting that like, oh gosh, there hasn't been an update or something, because again, I'm not totally sure where I am in my posting progress right now, don't worry, it will continue. I am just stockpiling my little updates, and hopefully we'll be at an end. Like, I want it to end, but like I don't want it to end, like in the fact that like I've completed it, but like I like making these little updates, they're fun. But this is what I'm at so far. I would show the harness, but it's over drying on my desk, but hopefully the next thing I can add when I get the hardware in and assemble it, we'll be able to apply it on that as well, and it'll look one step closer, and I'm so excited.